Hey Bookends, welcome to this week's 10-minute book review. I'm 10. This week's book review is going to be on Fernando by Chanel Hardy. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to put a picture up. So we like to start off every book review with a star point, as in out of 10 stars, how many stars did this particular book garner, and also a rating, as in if this is a movie or a TV show, what would it be rated? Star point. This book is a 10 out of 10 stars. We're going to go into why this delightfully messy and cute and happy book ended up being a 10 out of 10. And the rating, you know, it kind of hobbles between a PG and a PG-13. I could really see this as a movie on Freeform. So like for teens and young adults. But then there's some subject matter that's discussed. It doesn't really go in depth with it, so it could still range in the PG, but I'd feel more comfortable saying it as a PG-13, even though the subject matter doesn't really get to that level. So jumping right on in, we meet Amari, who is a transgendered teenager. So she is a MTF, male to female transgendered teenager. She's already come out to her parents, and she's been stealing to get hormone pills, so, you know, to be able to afford them. Once her mom and dad find out, they do the best they can to assist her. And at the beginning of the book, we see that she is about to get gender reassignment surgery, and at that point, she is arrested for credit card fraud. We fast forward and she is out of prison, so she's 19 at this point. I believe she was arrested at 18. She spent a year in prison, and unfortunately she was put into a male prison even though she was on hormone treatments, and she's released at this point. Her father, who is working in Brazil in the Freedom Corps, something like that, wants her to come stay with him for the summer to give her mother a little bit of a break. So she does it. She goes to her father in Brazil. Now her father is African American, but he's over in Brazil working. Peace Corps, that's what it is. He works for the Peace Corps. And we don't find the issue of her parents giving a lot of pushback or anything with her being transgendered. We do find the issue of them not always understanding, which makes sense, because if someone's a teenager who came out as transgender, then of course they've spent more of their life as what it is their body on the outside represents, not what their mental mindset represents. So of course the parents are going to have a little bit of a more difficult time coming to terms with who it is she says she is. But they don't give her a lot of pushback. They don't make her feel bad. They don't say constantly that you're still my son, or things like that. You know, they don't do that. Although they are still working on making sure that they're saying the right name and the right pronouns. So she's in Brazil and she meets all these people. Now, despite what the cover looks like, this is not a smut book. There is no sex in this book at all. The romance in this is a slow burn. It's fleshed out for the amount of pages that it is. It's not a very long book. You can finish it in about a day and a half, perhaps, if you're not busy. But there's no sex in this book. So don't let the cover fool you into thinking like, oh, it's one of those. It's not one of those. So she meets a couple of people. One of them is Charlotte, who she befriends. And another one is Gabriel, who she has kind of I don't want to say a enemy to lovers type thing, because they were never enemies, but she's kind of, okay, Amari is standoffish with Gabriel because Charlotte likes Gabriel, but Charlotte also likes a dude named Ramon, so Charlotte trying to get all the men, and it's like it can't work that way. Gabriel likes Amari, so, but he doesn't know that Amari is transgender, and Amari is kind of having a thing for Gabriel, but of course there's always in the back of her mind, I gotta tell this dude that I'm working with a little bit extra downstairs. I'm not everything that, you know, he thinks that I am. Charlotte Oh my god, there were so many times in this book that I knew something was up with Charlotte, because she was too nice, she was too let's be friends, and she was too much like she was some sort of an ally to somebody. Like, they were having a pride parade in Brazil, and she was like, oh, you gotta come, Amari. Now, she didn't know that Amari was transgender. She didn't know. And she's like, you gotta come, Ramon is bi, and like she's just a girl who wants to be a part of the party. She has no idea why everybody's celebrating. She just wants to be a part of the party. She's like one of those people who walks into someone's birthday party, don't even know whose birthday it is and what age they are, and she's just like, I smell cake, are those streamers? Of course I'll come. Like, yeah, she's just one of those people who don't really care. She just wants to be there for the party. Some things happen, and okay, Amari ends up telling Gabriel that she's trans. The way she ends up telling him is that she shows him an old picture that her father has in his wallet of her when she was male presenting as a little boy, and she's like, that was me. And Gabriel seems to take that pretty well, because he's like, you know, first of all, they're young. They're part of the MTV generation. I'm a part of the MTV generation. So they're kind of young. And so, mind you, this is taking place, I believe, in the late 90s. So they're still youngish at this time. So he's pretty much accepting. There's several parts in the book that I think are very telling and are very important. So let's get into that as to why this book is a 10, because I don't want to give too much away with the book. So one of the things that leads to this book scoring so high on the star scale is how it showed diversity in reactions. So Amari was dead named exactly 3 times in the book, and all 3 times there was a different reaction to it, a different appropriate reaction to it. So the first time she's dead named is when she's being arrested by the police, and when they're at the hospital they say her name. She did not correct the police. Here's the thing. It could be a 50-year-old man being arrested by a 30-year-old police officer, and the police officer says, boy, the 50-year-old man is not going to correct the police officer, because the main point or the mainstay or the main takeaway from that whole situation is to get out of it alive and with as few things on your body broken as possible. Because being black is being black. It doesn't matter if you're black trans or black cis or whatever. Being black is being black. So whatever name you're being called by the police is like, okay, don't like it, but I'm not going to say anything because I need to be able to survive this to be able to get home to my family. So, of course, all she did was cry, but she didn't call the police all and say, that's not my name, my name is, like, she didn't do all that. And it wouldn't have made sense for her to have done that, because all black people know the dangers of talking to the police while being arrested, while doing anything while being arrested. So her reaction to that was very realistic. The second time in the book is when her father dead names her. So she's in Brazil and he's trying to get her attention. He's yelling for her. Now, he hasn't seen her in a few years because 1, he was in the Peace Corps, and then 2, she was in prison for a year. So he's calling for her, and she's not answering. And then finally he yells, like, he gets frustrated, and like, he doesn't like call her name. He's like, hey, hey, hey. And then finally he says her dead name. And that embarrasses her because she thinks other people around may have heard it, and so she runs away from him. Like, not runs away like grabs a bag and goes, but like physically runs, like literally runs away. And it's made very clear that her dad loves her, because her dad does use her name, Amari, often. And he does call her a baby girl and stuff like that. So he does accept her for who it is she says she is. But he was calling for her, and it was a moment of like his brain just forgot. I've had times when my mom has called me by one of my siblings' names because she's like, hey, 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 you! And then called one of my siblings' names while looking at me. It's like, it's not that my mom loves my siblings more than me, it's just that her brain stopped, because she's human. Our brains stop sometimes. And Amari's reaction to that was realistic because she was hurt, but when he actually goes looking for her, and he apologizes to her and says something to the effect like, I love you, baby girl, something like that, and she accepts his apology, because she knows that this man loves her for who it is she is, he just made a mistake. So it wasn't like, I hate you, Dad, and you never, and there was none of that drama behind it. She knew that this man loved her for who she was. And the third time that she was dead named was by Charlotte. This chick, so they're at a party. First of all, she does Charlotte's hair. So she's nice enough to do Charlotte's hair for this party. She didn't have to do Charlotte's hair, but she did Charlotte's hair for this party. Now, it's already made clear by now that Gabriel likes Amari, and that Gabriel and Amari are together. And Charlotte is already sleeping with Ramon. Now, mind you, any sex in this book that takes place off screen, so it doesn't even really mention it. It's just that you kind of know. And so she's already sleeping with Ramon. So she already got her dude in the bag. She doesn't need anything. But when she has this party, Ramon shows up because he's invited. Not Ramon, I'm sorry. Gabriel shows up because he's invited. And she dead names Amari in front of everybody at the party, and then calls Gabriel gay. She's like, oh, I guess that's why you didn't like me. I guess it's because you were gay. Not because she has a bad attitude, not because she might be ugly, not because he might not like ugly spirited or ugly souled people. No, she says because you're gay. Which, just because he liked a transgendered woman doesn't mean that he's intrinsically gay. I mean, I'm sure there are gay men who like transgendered women, but I'm sure there are heterosexual men who like transgendered women too. So, anyway, and Amari gets angry with Charlotte for doing this because Charlotte yelled this so loudly, that put her life in danger. Because as we know, in the transgendered world, African American transgendered people are heavily targeted for some reason. And for some reason, I think that transgendered women get it harder than transgendered men. I don't know why that is. I think some men, I don't know why. I know that men can be mean people when it comes to transgendered women. I don't know. But yeah, basically she put her life in danger by yelling that. And rightfully, Amari was pissed. Amari was like, I'm not forgiving you. You see how the difference between when her father did it and like she knows her dad loves her and he made a mistake, as opposed to this chick who dead named her to embarrass her and also to embarrass a dude that didn't want to sleep with her. So I appreciate the three different situations in which she was dead named, and the three different unique reactions that she had to each one of those. And the three different reactions were realistic. Because yeah, I'm going to be pissed at somebody who does something to me on purpose to embarrass me. And yeah, I might be angry at a parent who does something by accident to embarrass me, but I know they love me, and if they're apologizing, I am going to forgive them. And yeah, if it's the police doing something, it's like, what am I going to do? Well, what am I going to do? I'm just survive. If a police officer said sir to me, what am I going to do? Say yes? Yeah. Survive. So, something else that was interesting in this book, it brought out some of the conflicts that heterosexual men face when they find themselves dating or either in love with someone who is transgendered. So when Charlotte calls Fernando out, when she says that he must be gay, although we find out later, Gabriel, although when she calls Gabriel gay for liking Amari, although we find out later that he's not too fazed by Charlotte, that is something that I think a lot of heterosexual men do go through if they do find themselves sexually attracted to someone who is a transgendered female, for the simple fact that if that person hasn't gone through gender reassignment, then they still have the same male presenting parts on them, and so that can leave the person who is finding them romantically attractive feeling as though, okay, well, has their own personal sexuality changed, or what's going on? So that was an interesting mental conversation to have while reading the book. Also, we find out a secret about Fernando. Why do I keep saying Fernando? Fernando is not a person. Fernando is a place. Fernando is a place in Brazil where Gabriel likes to go. So I don't know why I keep saying Fernando as a person. It's not a person, it is a place. So there's an interesting thing about Gabriel that's revealed that I'm not going to reveal here because it might ruin the story. It's an interesting twist. But I appreciate how well it was handled. One of the biggest things that gave this book 10 stars was how Amari's trauma was handled. So you know how much I hate black trauma books because they do have a purpose in the literary world, but unfortunately they're always put in the forefront in books that don't put black trauma on display or always put on the back burner. With Amari, we know that unfortunately, even though Amari is female presenting, she was put into a male prison, even though they begged for her to go into a female prison. And so it was mentioned in the beginning of the book that she was assaulted while in prison, but it didn't go into detail. And I appreciate that it didn't go into detail until much later in the book because it gives us a chance to get to know Amari as a person through her experiences, through her attitude, through her perception of the world around her, and through her reactions to the world around her, and not just through the scope of her trauma. We don't see her trauma first and then see how she reacts to the trauma. We see her first and then we see the trauma that has perhaps contributed to some of the ways that she has. So we do find out while she's talking to Gabriel that she was sodomized in prison with a broomstick and that she had to stab someone with a fork so she could get put into solitary confinement just to be safe. And it was said that she said that was the scariest and safest she's ever been in prison. The scariest and the safest she's ever been in prison. Because like she was all by herself in solitary confinement, so that was scary, but it was also safe because there was no one there to assault her. And once she was let out of solitary confinement, she decided that she was going to be where she needed to be able to survive the rest of her time in prison. So if she needed to be someone who was bigger and tougher than her girlfriend and do the things they wanted her to do for them, she was going to do those things to survive. So she was the survivor. And we find this out towards the middle of the book. So that way we're not feeling sorry for her and pitying her from the beginning all the way in and trying to figure out her motives and stuff like that. We find that out later. Something else that I thought was really nice is that the book has I love the ending. It is a messy ending, but it is a happy ending. And I like that because messy and happy equals realistic. Because realistically speaking, not everybody dies in the end. A lot of these trauma books is like, oh, everybody dies. No. So everybody doesn't die in the end. Just to leave Gabriel, and Gabriel does something beautiful for her that I really think you would need to read to see, because I don't want to ruin it, but he does something really beautiful for her. And at the end of the book, we kind of end up seeing the fruits of that, and also the person that she's become, because the end of the book skips ahead a year, and so by the end of the book she's 20. And something else I want you to look at with this book too, a lot of books that feature transgendered protagonists who are adults tend to sexualize them, overly sexualize them. So if they're talking about their breasts, they over-sexualize their breasts, over-sexualize their hips, over-sexualize any part of their body that could be used for sex. And so it becomes more so, look at this transgendered person having sex, as opposed to look at this human being living their life and possibly finding love on the way. So I enjoy that this book was the latter. It was about a human being who was living their life and ended up finding love along the way. How long will that love last? Who knows? She's still young, and there are other determining factors going on. But the ending was really good. So once again, this has been a book review for Fernando by Chanel Hardy. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Bye, Bookends.